Yeah, you know, that's good. This guy's good. This guy here.
Missiles could significantly destroy the rep.
My global issues. You know, sometimes people actually pay attention to the minutia, the logistics. You know, I would rather have a well-trained, high-tech army than have a million-man, you know, ground force. I don't, you know, that Crimea, as soon as you take out that bridge, it's isolated. The only way it can go is up through its own territory, all within range of all the new glide bombs, MLRS, everything. What's going on in Bakhmut is exactly what Sun Tzu would do. He would occupy you here, grinding down your forces. And if you had to retreat, you would gain nothing by taking that territory. If when the Ukrainians leave Bakhmut, which they will when the offensive starts, they'll just let them have it. Because if they move into Bakhmut, you're basically saying, here we are, this is where you land your artillery. Now, I can tell you something right now. First off, I have not seen personally any video of HIMARS anti-personnel missiles being used en masse. Not on any of you'll see a group of 20 Russians, they'll go after them with artillery, they'll go after them with mortars, tanks, but you don't see the anti-personnel HIMARS. In 1997, I guess, I saw a video of a demonstration of the HIMARS anti-personnel weapons, not the big ones. This was your standard 8-tuber, and six were fired from this 6-tube rig, and they came down, chaboom, 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 chaboom. Now, every time one of those things went off, you had 6 football fields covered in tungsten balls that big. They're that big. These aren't flechettes or little, small pieces of shell fragment. They're tungsten balls that big. They go through soft armor. And they came down and they literally covered an area that I would say would be 1/5 of Bakhmut would just be done. We haven't seen them do that. You never want to show your enemy, okay, how long or how sharp your sword is before you go into battle. I see this as very smart, and this guy's come to the same conclusion, is that Bakhmut is a place for it's just a hole for the enemy to pour its resources into. It's demoralizing their forces, where they're giving up now in large groups, and not just giving up in large groups, but they're actually going and getting weapons first, like tanks and shit like that, and deserting with all that ammo and hardware. The Russians haven't seen much yet. Sensor-fused weapons. We haven't heard a damn thing about that, because supposedly bombs with multiple explosives are considered illegal. But I think what you will see is the use of these devices, these sensor-fused devices, where you've got, 12 to 14 of these tank-killing shape charge devices that basically have a laser that makes a loop, and as it goes along the ground, it's making a loop like this, and it covers every bit of that ground. It has an infrared and a laser seeker, and as it's spinning like this, Anything within that circle where it's spinning, and that's why they gyrate like this, anything within that circle is a legitimate target for these things. They're extremely accurate. I talked about it a few months ago on the Gamers channel. They used that weapon one time in Iraq. Once. I feel bad just talking about it, to tell you the truth. They used it one time on a line of tanks, okay? They were entering this town. I think there was like 25 vehicles. They flew over and they dropped just 2 of these devices and killed every vehicle in that engagement. Didn't use it anymore. You see, that is the kind of weapon where you go, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't have everybody making these, and maybe we should just put this over here and stock them up and use them when we need them. So that line of Russian vehicles, right? You could have had, let's say, 6 F-16s go in there after your anti-air guys did it. Went in and got rid of the anti-air. Here comes, either B-52s at extremely high altitude, really, really, really far away, okay? Dropping these devices, they would have just devastated the entire line of Russian vehicles. From the border of Belarus, any vehicle inside that border of Belarus to Ukraine would have been wiped out. Can you imagine what a group, a flight of A-10s could do in there? 16 Mavericks plus the gun. And now they're making them into bomb trucks where they can carry like 24 SDBs. GBS, small diameters. Okay, so they're glide bombs too. Because the A-10 really, in some place like in Bakhmut right now, it would be very difficult because there's some man-pad ground surface-to-air devices there. They're very accurate now, even though the way that Douglas built that thing with the motors on top and cutting down on the heat signature and an extremely robust and tough airplane, it still would just be a waste of a resource. But there's no reason why they can't get up high 30 miles away and dump a truckload of bombs that are going to glide over to where you need it. And then in a case of an emergency, like the T battle that they had between the Russians and Ukraine in this little T-shaped area, you could have had an A-10 go in there and be very precise for ground support. I do believe there's still a place for A-10s doing ground support. I really do. I think any guy with a gun on the ground would agree that it's not time to retire the A-10 in that role, but it is time to make them more adaptive. So, yeah, the Russians have not seen, right now they're fighting tanks that the Ukrainians have, and these, armored fighting vehicles that have cannons, and you'll see them firing, ping, 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 ping. We haven't seen miniguns and shit like this. We haven't seen, any of the anti-personnel devices that we could bring to bear, like the Bradley, with basically shooting hand grenades the same way, that explode at a set distance that you measure with a laser. So if you have a trench that's a half mile away, you point your laser at that trench, and the barrel, the barrel itself, as the ammo is going into it, tells the shell how far it is and how many revolutions to make before you explode like a hand grenade. And they literally go pop, 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 just right down the trench. Boom, 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 boom. There's no place to hide. I watched the other day, you had basically a Ukrainian tank took 5 or 6 shots directly at a trench and didn't kill anybody. Because tanks were not meant to attack trenches. Bradleys are. And the Russians are not going to be prepared for what the Bradleys are going to do over there. I really don't. And they can protect themselves from armor. That TOW missile is a long-range device. I can see Abrams sitting back and just picking off Russian tanks. Any armor they send. I see Abrams just sitting back, 10,000 yards further than you're going to have Russians being able to target an Abrams. And they're just going to long distance, sabot shots. Yeah, the Russians don't know. I mean, the way I'm seeing them fight is just fucking stupid. They fall into a trap. Then they fire all of these artillery mine-laying shells behind the enemy. And then they attack the enemy with direct fire high explosive shells from their artillery. And the Russians all run back and get blown up on the mines that their Ukrainians just sat behind them. Or you'll have you'll have these convoys charging down a road and it hasn't been demined. No sappers have been in there. These guys are just flying down this road like it's just like, what the hell? And boom, boom, boom. And I'm thinking, who's in charge there? Okay, because really, I don't understand anything about that. It was a waste of material. It was a waste of manpower. It was morally depressing on your troops. Yeah. I don't think this war is going to be over in 23, to tell you the truth. I think by the end of 23, they'll be fighting in Crimea. There will be no bridge. There'll be no way for the Russians to attack across that strait. They'll have to come back down the way they came before. And by that time, there'll be defensive positions everywhere. And what's going to happen is Vladimir Putin's going to fall down an elevator shaft onto some bullets, and that'll be it. And then they'll all fight for position to see who's going to get what, and whoever can fix the next election the fastest, that's who's going to be in power. While they're trying to fix ours, of course.